In this session, we shall have the following panelists. I'll request them all to please join us on stage. Mr. Rohit Tandon, he's the product head of MetaWork. Srimati Lakshmi Nageswari, she is from GL Boston. Wing Commander Sudhakaran S. He will be the moderator for this session. Shri Vinayak Kumar, MD and CEO, YOLO Health. Shri Anuj Jain, Chief Architect, DNA TCS. Ms. Anju Chaudhary, Senior Director, Builder AI. Shri Arjun Khazanchi, CSO of Ruba Finance. And Shri Sanket S, Growth and Partnership. I request them all to please join us on stage. So Wing Commander Sudhakaran takes a lead on this. He is the moderator for this session. And a very warm welcome to all the panelists.
A very good morning to one and all. At the outset, I would take this opportunity to welcome my co-panelists, and I would also express my gratitude and thanks to ICRA for having given me this opportunity to moderate the session on technology innovation as well as its integration across various domains. This is, I would like to address this slightly from a different perspective because we sometimes take innovation and invention for granted and tend to mix both these terms very seamlessly. And that's where both the danger as well as the threat lies in. Like, for example, there is an innovation that is required in services. And when India today boasts of 70,000 startups, you'll actually find that those are a majority of that. In fact, more than 99% of that is a service-oriented innovation. Like a small problem that I solved in a certain sector. We saw a presentation by the CEO of Earthmate. How beautifully they have tried to solve a very small problem. That's not something that led to a rocket science. There was no technology innovation per se. But there is a danger there which we need to today sit and discuss both from the service perspective as well as from the technology perspective. They said, we are integrating LLM. And they said, it is going to solve a lot of my problem. Does it? Is it really going to solve a lot of your problem in the long run? Or is it going to create a lot of problems for you? That's a question that we don't even ask ourselves. Because what I'm interested in today is, how do I optimize my business and take it to the next level? How do I make it more efficient? And in the process, am I somehow giving my secrets to somebody who's sitting somewhere else? We don't even ask these questions. None of us even know how these large language models run. We all rave about ChatGPT today. In fact, I was just doing a consultancy on the same subject for the government of India, one of the departments. And I had presented a paper in which brought down clearly how China is almost 20 to 30 times bigger than what you know as ChatGPT. They've been running this program for the last 7 to 8 years. Not that we were not, as technologists, we were not aware that ChatGPT, the monster called ChatGPT existed. Because ChatGPT is just an acronym. It is not even the correct definition of what it is doing. But without even knowing that, we blindly seem to fall into the trap set by these organizations. See, I'll have to give you an analogy. This institution where we are sitting, it's the oldest defense institution in India. It's over 150 years old. In fact, a lot of Victorian era legacies you will see here. And when East India Company, why I'm bringing that analogy here is, when East India Company came, they didn't take over this country within first 5 years, or they didn't come all around and then, attacked India from east, west, south, and then, they took over this country. It didn't happen that way. They came to do trade. They understood what you are as a people, how you are connected, what is this country, how much wealth is there. They gathered information 300 years back about you. And then they didn't conquer the big kingdoms. They said, okay, we'll take care of this small place. We will do instead of your zamindari system, we will have you know, a Western system. And some kings were okay with that. They said, okay, they said that we will train your armed forces. And then they slowly, in the process, build their forces and use that forces on you. And what actually happened was a country which had 25% of world GDP was reduced to zero point 0.1. What it actually meant was a 3 trillion economy, which is today, should have been 75 trillion at least. We are something like 2 to 3% today. So if I multiply that by factor, I could very safely assume that we would have been a 40 trillion economy by that same yardstick. A 40 trillion economy means me and you would have been at least 10 to 20x more richer. That's the loss that each and every one of us suffered. Why? Because we lent our information for free, we trusted somebody for free, we believed them for free, and we thought, and even today the narrative is the Britishers built railways for your benefit. No, sorry, they wanted to plunder. Large language models like chat GPTs are going to do that same. When Earthmate is going to tell who my customers are, what their policies are, they know the business model. Maybe it might not happen the next year. Maybe 5 years down the lane, you might find a chatmate doing the same thing at a marginal cost to begin with and will consume you as a business. You solve the problem, you set the template, you were the pioneer, but now you are non-existent. That threat is there. We need to understand that. So this panel is about talking about how do we adopt safe innovation and innovation which can actually fuel Make in India. And when we talk about innovation, how indigenous has got to be. The bogey called globalization is already bust. We are into a very high degree of localization. Today, America only globalizes technology what it doesn't consider as a threat. It doesn't give you the sub-nanometer semiconductor technologies. It has denied China of most of the semiconductors. It doesn't give, when the war in Ukraine started, it packed off from Russia. Even the McDonald's and the people who made burgers also packed out from there, let alone we talk about technology. So, how are we going to address these things from the industry perspective? So, we have um, Sri Rohit Tandon, who is a product head of Metawork. I have Srimati Lakshmi Nageshwari, GL Boston. Sri Anju Jain, a Chief Architect, DNA of TCS. Mrs. Anju Chaudhary, Senior Director, Builder AI. Sri Arjun Kazanchi, CSO of Ruba Finance. And Sri Sanket Vice Growth and Partnership begin by Zogo. So I'll give each panelist around 5 minutes or so to share the thoughts around the theme that I have put across to you, and then probably take the session forward, and then we will be open to questions from the audience so that we get a better perspective of where we are heading collectively as a nation. So may I now request see Rohit Tandon, product head Metawork, to start his thought, and I request to restrict it to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakaran. Like Mr. Sudhakaran said, making something it should be coming out of a need, and it should solve a problem for you. For example, I want to start with the UPI as an example that has been the most successful from India that has come off recently there. It was a very small problem that we all saw that sending money to each other was not being regularized. There used to be Paytm and other wallets, but they were not regularized. And when UPI came up, it simply revolutionized our way of transacting the money or sending the money and receiving the money among us. That is what it was solving. It was solving a problem for a common man to have access to your accounts and send money to each others without going to bank at that one point of time, and yet the settlements were being immediate for them. it was one of the biggest problem for decades that we have seen. The innovations were happening in IMPS, RDGS, they were happening there, but for all, you either have to go or you have to log into your accounts. But then, when this UPI came up, it simply solved everything, almost everything for us, for the micropayments at least. And I'm happy to say that, recently we all know that UPI is getting introduced in multi worlds now. There are other countries who are now taking this solution and implementing themselves for the settlements that happen there. So again, like Mr. Zorakan say, that it has to the technology has to solve a problem, and it all solves from the smallest set of issues that we are facing, and then build on top of it, rather than thinking of greater solution, which may or may not happen for that matter of time. Yeah, I think that's my interpretation of how you evolve in a technology.
I now request Srimati Lakshmi Nageshwari GL Boston to share your thoughts.
Thank you. I would like to stick to the core topic of this panel discussion: technology innovations and integration in across domains. From the technology side, I represent Boston Limited, which is a UK-based company. And last 30 years, we are playing around different technologies, either before new technology enters into the market, or we do benchmarking between the technology players to understand the suitability and fitness of a specific technology towards specific solutions or specific industry in core. So coming to the core topic, technology innovations, as we all aware of, so many new technologies are coming up. 8 years back, it was NVIDIA's GPU which has started creating awareness about deep learning models to at least India market. And other than scientists, I think public crowd and developer community came to know about deep learning more or less through NVIDIA's DLI programs and NVIDIA's GPU. And today, when you look at, I could see a lot of organizations who are more focusing on chip-based product on technology side rather than on the solutions. We see both solution, I mean software as well as the hardware growing a faster space. And yeah, so the first point of this panel discussion, technology innovation, it is growing at light on speed, and we have so many technologies in the market to play around. Coming to the migration of technologies towards the specific domains, at the same time, we see a lot of adoption of these technologies across domains. I could say from healthcare and agriculture. Anyhow, we know manufacturing, FMGCs and all. Anyhow, we've been following this kind of trend for past couple of decades. But now I could see a lot of difference in new space and adoption of technologies. As I mentioned, healthcare startups have been growing fast. And I'll give you a small example. I know some of the one of the pathologists who is almost 25 years experienced in the field, and his day-to-day workload is to analyze the health records to understand the status of cancer. And these kind of doctors today are looking forward for a digital solution. So they want to use digital platforms to analyze the data, the scanning reports or tumor reports, whatever it is, including the blood sample reports, and they want to use this technology to analyze the first and second level of the data analysis part, so that they can only look into that analysis report and then come to a final conclusion with their experience. So pathologists as well as radiologists have started using digital technologies for their work field. It's a good start point. At the same time, coming from a technology background, what I would mention when it comes to the technology adoption in the industry, organization level, even if it is a MSME, a startup, or a big organization, we should have a clear AI roadmap, understand the feasibility and fitness of a specific technology towards our product portfolio, and create a roadmap and then jump on to adoption of a technology instead of everybody is talking about AI and we should go adopting AI. That should not be the case. That could be one reason where I see a lot of startups failing in the early stages. Huge investments are going in, and they may not be good enough success rate. If somebody has that exact AI strategy in place and then jump onto this technology adoption, will definitely give a better results. Thank you.
May I now request Sri Anuj Jain, Chief Architect, DNA TCS, to share his thoughts on the subject.
Thank you, Sunan. Myself, Anuj. I come from the data analytics background. And if I look at the topic of technology innovation across and its impact on the industry, right? And if I look this topic, the technology innovation along with the data analytics, let's give a very specific pictures. When we look from the data analytics and technology innovation as three dimensions, right? See, what we have seen that innovation has been always helping the analytics to be improvised. And we have seen in last 2 decades, like the analytics which has been done very basics, like the typical KPI driven. Now those things are running based on the API. And what we have seen across the industry, across the customers, then when we are enabling these technology innovations, there are various angles. One of the angles has been like how we can utilize the various technology innovations within the context. Like we have now the cloud computing as a technology. We have a lot of cloud services available. We have a lot of things available as a data. And as we call it, like data is the new oil as per se. And when we look all these things in a context of the data analytics and let's say cloud computing, what we are looking to mix those things, come up with the innovative solutions and bring that outcome out of these things. See, what we have been working on various customers, like one of the customers, we have done implementation of utilizing these things as a innovative solutions. So when we are looking this analytic side of it, we talk about ChatGPT, yes, but then actual realization of the analytics within the realm of data privacy. And I think some of us, we already mentioned about the data privacy part, which is very, very important. And we have seen many times with the various customer, like the data privacy comes or data security comes as a first and foremost thing, even though something you will not be able to achieve, but then data privacy is something which cannot be compromised. So within the realm of data privacy, the analytics and then technology innovations, we are able to achieve a lot of things. So let me quote one scenario where as a TCS, we have done implementation for one of the rail transportation customer in the Europe division. We have enabled the ecosystem by sharing the data via the data marketplace, which like we have used our TCS Dexam as one of the framework, where we have utilized that as one of the platform to share the data, but then the whole journey has been mainly from the data privacy perspective. Like data has not been shared per se as a copy, they have been shared specifically for the domain perspective. So the overall ecosystem, the technology of the cloud computing and that this journey has been always helpful. And that's how I see that we would be utilizing those things. And then the only thing which basically we need to see as an industry also, like utilizing the AI and then utilizing it in the context. It's been very important. See what business will look for. Business will look for always very specific outcomes. But what AI brings, they are always giving the probabilistic outcomes. And that's where the gap always exists. And I think that's where we should be targeting to minimize that gaps to make it very useful. And that's how when we are looking with the large customer, we see those things happening along with the implementation of the ecosystems. So that's how I would look for it. Like it's a amalgamation of the data analytics and then innovation. And we can always take this journey along with the cloud services. That's I would like to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your thoughts. Next, I request Sri Arjun Kasanchi, CSO, Ruba Finance, to share his thoughts on the subject.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And Thank you so much, Vinkumar and Sudhakaran, for actually setting the context of this discussion and inviting all of us to be a part of this engaging conversation. Because without these conversations, when national AI policies or national policies for any technological innovation has to be set out, it's important that you get the industry perspective as well. And these discussions really help set that foundational groundwork for those conversations to be had. So thank you so much for that. And with regard to the topic at hand, which is balancing technological innovation and its integration, I see integration as a very interesting word because from a macro perspective, there is an integration which also has to happen, and at a micro perspective, an integration has to happen. So when I'm talking about integration at a macro level, it's about whether the regulatory environment actually allows for that integration of that new innovative technology to happen in a meaningful way where participants can actually reap dividends from them. And from a micro level, the integration that I'm talking about is taking care of all of these data privacy nuances, whether data localization is required from a national security perspective or not, or is this important financial data, which shouldn't be going out because this would kind of put our own citizens in a weak point, like we saw with the Chinese loan app cases, which were actually filed, which put some lenders in a very tricky scenario. So it's very important to let interesting innovation take place in isolation. And then when we start integrating them, both at the macro and at a micro level, that's when these conversations need to happen. That's where you need to take care of data protection of your citizens, as well as a larger pool of users who may engage with your app in that sense. Because we've seen with ChatGPT is a very overused example nowadays, but it's very relevant considering in terms of adoption, it was one of the highest adopted applications just in a week, 100 million users, unheard of. But has all those guardrails been kind of put into place to take care of this innovation from kind of going out of hand? Because we've seen certain parts of the industry now calling for a stop or some kind of calm which should be there from a regulatory perspective, that let's stop innovation for 6 months and let's have some conversations about what is the impact of this. Though I'm not for pausing innovation, but integration both at a micro and a macro level is something which has to be had interestingly. And that's where solutions like sandboxes, which we've seen in the financial sector working really well with initiatives in India through SEBI, RBI, Gift City. And those sandboxes have actually allowed companies like ours, in fact, to kind of build out products where you're catering for both. Is there going to be a systemic risk to not only the consumers and the industry as a whole, but to other players who are already there? And are you making sure that your investor or your consumer is being well protected in this new innovative product? So regulatory sandboxes may be a very interesting tool, even for technologies such as AI, which needs rapid innovation, which needs rapid inflow of data, and which needs that environment to actually grow to be able to see what can come out of this. So that's where structures like the FDA's approval process for emergency use, for limited use case and mass use case with differing timelines could be created at right when you're developing technologies like AI, where before you kind of input it with all the data, before you decide which algorithm, before you decide machine learning or deep learning, right from the object state, you could approach these kind of in regulators or these kind of players where you could test out these innovations in a safe manner before actually integrating it into the wider ecosystem and causing any form of buildup of risk. So having these conversations is very interesting because personally speaking, I'm from the blockchain space and the financial markets, and I have had experience as a lawyer. So navigating this technological innovation and in the integration into the traditional system is something that we have to carefully balance as a product, which we know that our innovation may be 10 years ahead of where the industry is. But today the industry is here with those certain safeguards and railguards in place through regulation for a reason. Things went wrong in the past. We have learned from that experience. So how does that innovation balance those concerns with regard to integration is something which is very important, and you must have conversation around that, but intelligently as well.
Thank you, Arjun. And last, I would request Sri Sanket, Growth and Partnership, begin by Zoho, to share his thoughts on the subject.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Probably I am the odd one out here. Probably I'm the odd one out here because everyone looks like technology experts, and I'm the marketing and the partnerships guy sitting here, and talking about technology and also how the marketing industry can catch up with the innovations which is happening. I'm sure I won't surprise you if I say that smart use of technology is an integral part of a successful business. We live in a digital world, using mobile phones or mobile devices to create. and cloud computing to collaborate, and even collaborative or cognitive learning and artificial intelligence to improve operations, and data analysis to extract key insights. And I'm just talking about the surface level technology. And probably throughout the discussion, I will add a few key points on how the marketing industry can catch up with all the technological innovations, and how we can together, the marketing industry and the technical experts, how we can together safeguard the innovation and also help everyone out here to have safe business and also a safe life.
Thank you. So that's brings us to round one of this panel, and I would like now to throw up the session to the audience as to what kind of questions that they have in their mind to the panelists, or any one of us for that matter. And feel free to ask those so that we can see if we can have a healthy discussion around it. And if we do disagree on any of these things, we can agree to disagree as well. But the idea is to initiate that fire. That conversation is very, very important, because that is the beginning towards any journey towards achieving anything. So may I request, the mics are around? Yeah.
So we are happy that we are in the era of fourth industrial revolution. We have technologies like blockchain and cloud computing and artificial intelligence. And but what about the unemployment? We are talking about integration of technology for the profit of the organization. But what about the human resources?
Ma'am, who is this question that you have directed? Anybody specific?
No, to all the industry.
Okay,
all the panelists
so I'll
from
take this question head on. This is a concern. Ma'am, we have to understand that we are moving towards an era of skill and an open market environment. So when you talk about unemployment, technology is going to disrupt a lot of conventional employment. Like you talk fintech. Fintech is something that has been covered from the morning. They say, ki, I'll employ a large language model. And what does a large language model do? It will be able to talk to you, which a conventional L1 desk support executive in a call center used to do to you. Now that job is gone. If somebody thought that call centers are here to stay, they are gone long back. It is just a matter of time before we see them as history. So jobs will get defined and redefined. You will need to skill and upskill to be able to get that employment. But what is that consequence going to be is the employment that used to be elementary, mundane, routine, that's not going to be there. In fact, driverless cars are already a reality. To tell you, it is not the technology that is preventing driverless cars from hitting the road. It is more to do with employment and government policies, because governments know that they will lose votes. Because technology is not going to vote for them during that day. So they are taking it slow and easy. But there will be a day when they will also be hand-tied and compelled. Farm laborers. There's so much of automation happening in agro-tech sector. You don't need the same number of laborers per square meter to do the same level of agriculture, because we are today talking about 10x more productivity with 10x less manpower. We're going to lose those kind of laborers. So human mind is about skilling, upskilling and reskilling. And that's where employment is going to come. So to reap the demographic dividends, we need to invest in education, and education not in the Victorian era education that we are talking about. It's not about mugging and vomiting and saying that, I got 89% or a 92% and therefore I'm entitled for this job. That doesn't work. It is about your creative mind, what kind of creativity that it can bring into the table, how it can beat that machine, and that's where you earn that job. Now, can 140 crore Indians be able to do it? That's the challenge that lies before us. We need to solve this problem. So the government needs to smell the coffee, change the policies. And as people, we need to leave that uh, uh, thought of entitlement that some job, some government job is going to come our way. Sorry, there has to be less government, more governance, which means less people, which means less employment. So there is no one answer for this. We are going for great turbulent times, there's great disruption. So for people belonging to here and your near and dear ones, it's all skilling, upskilling, and reskilling. That's the magic that will keep you employed. If any of the panelists wants to add to this, I will give it to them.
So I would like to add from the industry perspective, and it's very interesting. See, you take every 5 years, you have to reskill yourself, any of us. And it's been happening. And see, I've been part of industry, and I have seen like if we don't reskill ourselves, it's basically you are outdated. And it's in also, I think in all industry we are seeing, and this is I think the way of life, right? And if we don't do it, it would be, I mean, we will not be relevant. So it's a kind of a continuous learning, and every 5 years you will see that kind of cycle. I have seen personally many technology cycles per se, which we have seen like today it's like chat GPT we are talking about. Down the line 5 years you will have something else, and chat GPT maybe gone or maybe somewhere else. So it's like, see, I can take many examples, but it's been the cycle always, and I think it will go on.
I would like to add one line, as both my friends mentioned, reskilling, upskilling, and keep updating ourselves is the funda for sure. But at the same time, what I look at unemployment question, and even for those who are into employment, we need to skill ourselves, but understanding the right skill and proper learning journey is the key point for me, because I keep seeing people coming for data scientist roles, and in interview board I find most of them failing explaining me the application part of most of the technologies they are mentioning they have done. As Sudhakar ji mentioned, that percentile of getting 89, 92 makes no value for me, but even a fresher who can actually explain me the why factor of using an algorithm for the given project makes a lot of sense. So skilling is required, but right kind of skilling, because I keep seeing if some course is for 300 rupees, 3000 rupees versus 3 lakh rupees, depending on our capability, people are jumping on and learning. But just give a thought before taking that step. The step is required for sure, but right skilling is also required with the application side of understanding, which actually adds a lot of value for your skilling part and getting into right jobs. If somebody can really explain the application side of whatever we are learning, I think doors are open. Industry is looking for such kind of profiles, and these unemployed are already graduated looking for employment. They have to give value to this piece of advice, that they should understand the application side of whatever course they are doing. Second, for existing employees, has already mentioned, we need that upskilling, reskilling. Otherwise, lot of people who are already in jobs are going to lose their jobs for sure. But AI or any other technology is not going to minimize number of jobs for sure. That is my strong point. But yes, if we are not ready to adopt the new technologies learning, we will definitely be out of this market.
And
Thanks.
sorry, just to chime in over there with all the valuable feedback they've provided as well. Apart from just the unemployment aspect of things, there is also a newer opportunity in terms of the already existing holders of various skill sets to actually recontextualize some of their jobs. Today, ethicists, philosophers, psychologists within the AI boom are getting interesting new employment to actually root out some of the bias that may inadvertently seep into AI using different data sets. And as we see the integration of AI with these newer data sets, there's talks about how Quora's data could actually be integrated with ChatGPT for a couple of billion, or Google purchasing someone else's data set. Analyzing, sifting through that data set isn't just going to involve technologists in this whole journey. It's going to involve people with various skill sets. And the importance that traditionally has been placed on high IQ holders in that sense would actually now dynamically shift to a lot of high EQ personnel as well, because reasoning and taking those decisions and taking a good judgment call is also going to be given a lot of importance in the next coming years as IQ kind of gets democratized through these various programs as well. So there's a lot of recontextualization of people's existing skill sets which would happen. But yes, there is a lot of unemployment, and like Wing Commander pointed out, that's one of the reasons why trucking in America isn't being pushed towards driverless trucking, because most of the holders of these trucking jobs are men who have not gone to college and are basically school graduates. And them losing a huge amount of jobs would directly translate into a vote base and loss in terms of political power. So those nuances are there, but from both negative as well as positive, they're both.
So summing up, it is skilling, reskilling and upskilling. Employments are not going to be there for granted. So let's sum it up, because it's been a very elaborate answer for one-line question.
I would add to another line.
Request the audience not to answer, because we will then end up into we'll have personal conversations.
It's for everyone. Actually, being a data scientist, I would really like to add this thing, that AI is not going to replace your job. Humans who are using AI, those people will replace your job, right? So it is the hybrid intelligence, artificial intelligence along with human intelligence, rightly spoken by Arjun.
No, these are concepts. See, these are, we will have to deliberate. We can't say that this one statement will hold good, right? I don't agree to what you're saying, because there is going to be a massive disruption. That's the industry trajectory, at least. There are a lot of areas which it needs to do that. And when we talk about things like that, let me reiterate, for sake of not hurting personal sentiments, but we really don't understand what AI is. In fact, 2 days back, I ended up sharing one article from LinkedIn, wherein Sundar Pichai himself says, we don't know how these things behave. And the interviewer was surprised, because I don't know how many of you must have come across that. Google trained its AI system, and then it probably subjected it to something that it was not trained on. And the system exhibited knowledge which was beyond the comprehension of Google engineers. And Sundar Pichai was questioned on this, and he said, it's a black box, we don't know really understand. And I had written a paper on this 3 years back, because there is no intelligence without an ability to deceive. If you are predictable, that's not intelligence at all. So traditionally, computer programs, there is automation, there is digital transformation, there is intelligence enabled automation. These are different leagues altogether. In automation, you can actually have a consistency towards your input output, because the programmer knows what he can expect. He can curate and do. And digital transformation, when I talk today, is an extension of that in a certain disrupt, because we don't operate in silos and we break a lot of things. There's seamless cross-interpolation of a lot of other things. But when intelligence comes into play, it's like, I can't tell you how you behave the next minute. And so is true with the machine world. And we so naively believe that this cannot happen in the machine world, which is what the large language models have started breaking into. And this is not a phenomena which happened in 2020, by the way. We in military, we knew it long before. The thing is that it has not been unleashed into the public, because even with ChatGPT coming in, there is a lot of fear that has come in. Like people talking about pausing it, people talking about the ethical aspects. People who have not written a single line of code talk about ethical aspects of AI. The problem is they think that they equate that to the traditional computer programming, and that's not how an actual machine intelligence works. It has to mimic human level intelligence. Can it be done? There are a lot of naysayers who say it cannot be done. But it is on a trajectory to achieving that singularity path. Can I deny the non-existence? Can I say that it will not happen? I'm living in a fool's paradise. If it happens, then the consequence is what she's talking. That's why I disagree. So there is a broader conversation. We will end up spending hours into it and reach nowhere, because the world is doing it. In fact, every second day you might find it on the national media. So I'll set this unemployment question for the time being as a moderator, take this privilege. And then go on to the next question if anybody has.
Yeah, it's the next question. Myself, Rajneesh Gera, and I'm representing Secure B4. So we mostly deal with CISOs and CIOs. And I've seen that there is a lot of pressure by the management that they should move their infra on the cloud. And they are in the dilemma that they should decrease the cost or compromise with the security. So my question is, what do you think on cloud security?
Is it directed to any?
Everybody, whosoever wants to answer.
Who would want to take
I
it?
can take it.
Yes, sir.
So I've been in this again data analytics area, and then this cloud migrations, cloud modernization. I've been part of various initiatives, and I've been dealing as an architect. So see, per se, the cloud security everybody talks about, like cloud is not secure or something. I will say it's not the case. It's more secure than your on-prem. Depends upon how basically you configure it. Now, see, when we talk about security, we talk about DDoS, we talk about network security, we talk about physical access and all. So cloud as in technology, it enables you to enable the security and then also monitor them to great extent, which you cannot do with your on-prem systems. The only difference it makes in on-prem systems, you can always put a boundary, that virtual boundary that yes, my network is secure and my network is very much not accessible or very much limited. Other than that, there is nothing, no change as such. So if there are any apprehensions, like from security perspective, there could be certain scenario. As an industry, we can always explain them how basically it can happen. So I think it's not a fact, it's a myth, but it all also depends as an end user. Let's say I am the one as a company who is using it. So it's also my responsibility to make sure that I am configuring it, I am putting it all the things in place accurately. If I don't do it, it's my responsibility and my miss from that perspective. So I think, yes, there would be apprehension, but it can all be taken care from the technology side of it.
I just quickly add 2 lines to it. I came from a thought process that cloud is a strict no-no. In fact, I built the first data center for the Indian Air Force, and we built the world's one of the largest military networks, which the Indian Air Force operates today. So we were 100% on-prem because that's how maximum security can get. But when you talk about a business perspective, the same logic doesn't apply, because you'll have to look at cost optimization vis-a-vis what you want to protect. So in my opinion, if there is a data privacy concern which threatens your existence, segregate that into silos, 2 silos. And that's where hybrid architectures are more in vogue today. So what is more privy to you, more personal to you, more of concern to you, operated out of an on-prem space, which could be a limited footprint, and then what is general, what is mundane, what is routine, use it out from the cloud space, because that's where you get value. So value versus security, I would go for hybrid. That's my take. I hope.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah. Next question.
This question is directed to Ms. Lakshmi. You spoke about the use cases of AI in health. You talked about AI used in pathology for doing right diagnostics in pathology track. Just wanted to inquire from you whether you have a use case for AI in metaverse, on health in metaverse. Do you have a use case of using AI for health in metaverse?
Not exactly. I think my team is working on, but till now we are more on developing AI related solutions. I think multiple AI solutions are there, but not on metaverse.
I had a solution around what you said. So in one of my startups, we are creating a metaverse clone of a person. So you will be in the metaverse in your clone. And on that clone, we are testing medicines, exercise impacts, diets, etc. And then we will allow that to come to you after the AI tells us what really working or not working. That's a startup called Kodoy. We are onto it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commander, sir, can I ask a question? Right. Thank you so much for reminding us the harsh lesson from British East India Company, and it is rightfully a good reminder for all the young generation, especially over here. And we have already discussed about that you guys have been knowing these LLMs for past 8 years. So, is government is working on an LLM project? And if are you guys, do you have any LLM project ready? And not to the government, but to the audience, to the whole
You
panelists?
are not legible. Can you just hold the mic?
Okay. So my question is the government working on an LLM at the moment, or is any company, especially Metaverse, TCS, or other reputed companies, so are you guys do you have your own LLM, or are you still using open AI ChatGPT AI based service as a backend
Mr. Anuj Jain?
intelligence?
See, we are, I mean, if I look from the thesis perspective, we are still in that phase where we are exploring and deciding those things, because see, we deal with the various customers, and every customer has a different appetite. So this is like, I mean, I will say it depends, like what we get into it, but then OpenAI is one of the possibility which we are exploring, but not been, let's say, yet put as a product or as implemented one.
So I did a net assessment for one of the clients in Government of India, and I did the complete national scan. Right, we did have a 2-day conclave at IIT Bombay to discuss on all these things. So I can share a brief insight. As a nation, pre-ChatGPT, most of us were not even aware of what this beast is. Let's be frank. What we know as OpenAI's ChatGPT is just a tip of the iceberg. China has at least 100 times more powerful models. You're talking about 150 million token trained ChatGPT, which is a 3.0 version, and then now you've got a 4.0 version, which is going to be commercialized. And it's got more than billion model trained versions. And this again is just a nascent, because large language model is just an acronym that is coined to describe this. This is not the real technology. The real technology, in fact, Google had something called as an Auto ML0. I don't know how many of you have heard about it. These things form the basis for developing these kind of systems. So when we talk about AI, we very generally lose it. We say metaverse, there is some automation, that's AI. No. See, there are a lot of companies. In fact, 2019-20, I had initiated this conversation at the Global AI Summit where ICRA was there, and then we had a very heated debate as to what real AI is. See, if a video camera is going to recognize a cat and it says, I have seen a cat and this is a dog, that's not AI, that's not image recognition, that is not AI at all. That is just some level of comparative matrix that is at operation. You've assessed something, it's some kind of a sophisticated form of curve fitting. That's what is operating underneath. That's got nothing to do with intelligence. Intelligence is a different beast altogether, right? And how do you make it? There is genetic algorithm programming, evolutionary algorithm programming. I did a scan in 2016 on all the IITs as to what kind of research is happening in India. Zero. You go to, today, if you go to MIT, Stanford, or Harvard, they are not even talking, they have recoined this term into cognitive computing science. The courses are offered in those names now. And there is a qualitative difference that they've brought in the traditional machine learning, deep learning, and analytical data science approach. And this, what they talk as something else, these are things that brings in that unpredictability. So coming to answer about this, PSUs, DRDO, we are nowhere in that scene, and there is an awareness that is crept in, right? It takes billions of dollars. First of all, Microsoft invested something like $10 billion to build what in OpenAI. Are we investing that kind of money? No.
Are we planning to?
There is a report that, in fact, I had just curated one of the vision. Nitin Sani was there. We had suggested to the government that the journey has to begin as on yesterday, right? But then when we suggested just now, You can't expect India to dole out because there is a lack of understanding, even at the bureaucracy. See, tell you one more thing. Niti Aayog outsourced its AI policy document to Ernst & Young. It's a strategic sector. You can't do that. You can't make the budget with Deloitte and KPMG, right? Strategic in nature. AI is a strategic sector, far more sinister than the nuclear and space. We don't outsource that. So we have now put that into their, they need to understand this. You can't go and buy this thing and then use it because it's not going to behave, because we don't know how it is going to behave, right? So these thought processes have set in. So now the quantum mission has started, in which they say they have put in something like 6,000 crores, but I don't know where that money is going to go. So I think we have started realizing. See, you asked this question. So the answer today is, we can take it a safe no. Unless and until somebody is doing a very secret project, there is no reason to do it as of now. But that is what I can tell you first.
As a private organization at CyberRecon, we are building our own LLM. If you guys are looking to collaborate, we will be happy to join with the government.
You need to find the money, right?
Yes, sir.
And it takes billions of dollars, right?
It takes 10,000 GPUs.
That's so that's what we are today. Yes, collaboration is a way, indigenous collaboration is a way, but then you know what it takes if you're building that, right?
I would like to add a small point about what Zoho is doing. So at Zoho, we have something called Z Labs. We have Zia. That's the AI assistant we have. So we are trying to integrate the Zia into most of our products. So it does few basic searches. We can actually we can do this. Say you open a CRM. I'm talking with respect to sales and marketing. Say I want to see. I want to see a part of our customers who are using a particular feature in a particular Zoho product. So I tell the same thing to Zia, or I type it, and we will get a couple of filters, and by clicking a few of them, we will end up getting few searches. That's where we are today. But at Zoho, we spend 80% of our amount, I mean the revenue, whatever we are getting it back into R&D. So by doing that, we are trying to come up with a really good AI assistant, but we are on the way.
To add it, to just close it. See, we have to understand between chatbots, traditional chatbots, what we know, what he's talking about, and large language models. These are different beasts altogether again, right? So again, chatbots, few crores, we can build it. It will probably answer a set of repetitive answers. That's not what your question was. We're talking about large language models. So as a country, we've not started the race. We are probably realizing, and I hope sooner or later we will have our own version.
Because of our northern...
I think we'll close that. One last question if anybody has, and then we'll wind up the session. And we'll keep this answer very brief, because Mandeep is already staring at me.
Hello. So good morning. My name is Ritvik Chaubey. Sir, I have an agri-tech startup. I am from Bastar. Sir, I want to ask a question. When we talk about startups, we talk about problem solving. When we talk about problem solving, we talk about innovation. And when innovation comes, then comes technology. Sir, but in villages, what I have seen, that I have worked under Startup Village Entrepreneurship Program, sir. So what I have seen, that opening up a grocery shop, which is in a village which is located 70 kilometers far from any tier 1, tier 2 cities, is a big startup on its own. So my only question is, will this technology, what we are talking about here, has the power to transform tier 3 cities, and can these technologies can solve problems in rural Indias, and can these technologies can transform our villages and can solve the problem?
So I assume the question is towards me, and I'll just quickly give you the answer, because I share your pain, right? I share your pain, and your question is spot on. The answer to that is, the Indian invention was centralized around the PSU architecture so far. Who built the ISRO? It was a PSU model, right? I come from a defense ecosystem most of my life, so I've seen these government machineries, how these, we were dependent on the DRDOs. Our aircrafts were built by the HALs. We never, gave invention and innovation as a responsibility to the citizens of this country. Never enabled them. So when I say citizens, it's not about tier 1, tier 2. It's about across the board. So I always quote this example that in industrial Britain, why did industrial Britain rise to the place it went was because every nook and corner talked about invention, innovation and delivered. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, villages, cities, urban centers. We have still not caught up that race. Today when the government says in quantum mission I have put 6,000 crores, is that 6,000 crores, 2 crores going to come to Bastar? I don't know. And that is the problem that we need to solve as a country. That solves the problem of employment because we will need to fire up innovation at the last district level, the last village in the last district. And then when we do innovation at scale, we'll build not large language models, probably things bigger than that. There is lack of access for infrastructure, there is too much of cost, there is compliance issues. So I agree to all these things, but then are we on the right path? We are learning. But the good thing is, I can tell you one thing, by interacting with the government people, the intent is good. There is cluelessness that will be there. Let's admit that there, because that is where our journey to enlightenment begins. But if you think that we are already doing everything perfect, no, I don't agree with it. But the journey has begun and the intent is good and we hope we reach the right destination. Thank you one and all. I am not taking any more questions. Thank you for hearing us out. And then I thank the co-panelists also for having shared their rich, thoughtful views on the subject. And I now request Mandeep to take over.
Thank you for a very fruitful discussion. It was, I'm sure, enjoyed by one and all. I request you all to please remain with us for a moment more. We would like to present mementos to the esteemed panelists as a token of our thanks. And to present the mementos, may I request Ms. Alka from AICRA to please join us. I request Alka ji to please join us to present the mementos. Our thanks to Mr. Rohit Tandon. He is the product head of MetaWork. Thank you for being here with us today. We thank Srimati Lakshmi Nageswari. She is representing GL Boston. A big thanks to Wing Commander Sudhakaran, who is also the moderator of this session. Thank you.
I take it from here.
Our thanks to Sri Anuj Jain. Sri Arjun Khazanchi, thank you.
So much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And our thanks to Sri Sanket YS. Thank you. He's representing Begin by Zoho.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Couldn't participate in a lot of questions. Not much what is that. But yeah.